an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering WestWorld, Season 3, Episode 5, Genre. In this episode, Delores decides to let people out of their cages. But Caleb isn't really sure this was a good idea. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, one of my favorite things is to finish watching one of these episodes and then double back and look at the episode description on HBO. Mm-hmm. Because the episode descriptions have nothing to add. They don't tell you anything. Like, literally, the whole description for this episode is just say no.
Yep, that's super helpful, right?
Which I'm just like, guys, and I get it. You don't want to give shit away. Like, I really do understand. But, come on. And I guess it's supposed to be because genre's a drug. And so they're like, just say no. And I'm like, shut up.
But they're also saying no to other things, right?
Right.
So
this episode was a whole lot.
What did you think of the episode?
I really like we were talking about the other day, those of you who are listening to this, you are among a fairly small number. We have not been getting a lot of downloads on this show this season. And Rashawn was saying that the feedback was kind of lukewarm from people when this season aired. And I am surprised by that and very interested to see like where it goes, because at the moment, I am very into this. I've been really liking what I'm watching so far. And I found this one really compelling and just, it hyped me up too. I was on the treadmill when I was watching this again. And I had that shit turned up faster with a bigger incline than I ever have, because I was just like feeling it. I was just like, there was so much fighting, there was so much tension. I was just like, ugh. And it just brings a lot of questions up that are, it's recontextualizing a question that a lot of us ask ourselves when we watch or read things that have to do with like people who can see the future. Or like, you know, in for I have not finished it, so no spoilers please, but Steven Universe, there's a whole thing with him getting Garnet's like future sight. It's not even Garnet. Wait, it is Garnet.
Yeah, she has Ruby and Sapphire.
That's okay, yeah.
So she has the future vision, yeah.
And it sort of like stymies him into inaction, because everything that he sees, it's overwhelming to have all the like the possibilities of where everything you look at, it doesn't end up well or as well as you want it to.
Right.
And there's a similar thing in a lot of different bits of media where, like, does knowing it's bad news make it easier for you to live because now you know, or worse, because now it feels hopeless? It's a question many of us have sort of wrestled with, even though it's unlikely that we'll ever actually have to deal with the question.
Right. There's another thing that kind of pops up in pop culture, where it's like if you can see far enough into the future, everything ends up as shit anyway. You know, like all roads lead to a bad end. It's just a different route that you take to get there.
Yep.
So why would we want to even see if we understood that, and we really, really, digested that, and it really meant something to us, then why would we bother to do like anything ever?
Yeah, and like, you know, then there's the flip side of things where you'll see stuff where somebody like goes about their day and they feel like they had a real failure of a day. But then they'll find out that 3 or 4 innocuous things that they just did without thinking wound up having a huge effect on somebody around them in a way that they never thought of or saw coming. And, you know, really, both can be true. But I just thought it was a really interesting thing because Caleb's just kind of like, well, I did not expect, and I mean, we're 5 episodes into an 8-episode season, so like I should have. But I really did not expect for Delores to step in front of him to take some bullets and then literally look at him and just zip her jacket up to cover the bullet holes.
She says, we'll talk about it later.
Oh, my God. And she doesn't even say it at the time. It's when he brings it up later.
Mm-hmm. You would think that the only thing I can think why he didn't completely freak the fuck out is that he is coming down off of his drug experience.
Like, he has to kind of maybe wonder if he even saw what he saw. You know? And that's the only thing I can think.
So, you know, and it's like a crazy thing that he saw that was just one of, like, several crazy things he'd seen in the last, like, 6 hours. So, yeah, he's having a little trouble, I think, processing everything.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, you want to start from the beginning, I guess?
Let's get into it, baby. So we start off with Sirach and his monologue. You won't find very much about me. Every single person who knew anything about me was gone. And we see this like mushroom cloud. And he says, except for my brother. And his brother turns to look at him and has a nosebleed. I'm not sure if that's significant at all. Like if it's meant to be like they just got into a fist fight or that was an effect of like the bomb going off. Like they got knocked down even from far away. But we kind of fast forward really quickly. He says he kept us alive until we were found. I wanted to stay, but he said there is a time to leave things behind. And it's a pretty quick jump from them in knee socks to them as, 20-somethings.
Mm-hmm. Working on this project.
Yeah. And we get the obligatory, like, humanity is doomed montage of buildings on fire and riots in the streets and global
natural
warming.
Disasters.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how there's a line between him and his brother, which I think with any other show, I would just be like, calm down, show. when he says, Sirach says to his brother that God has left us, and he says that God was never here. Mm-hmm. And then they decided to make one.
Right.
And that is really heavy-handed, in my opinion. But it only works because of what they ended up creating.
Right.
When you see the capability of this machine that they have made, this program, then you're like, okay, I guess you get to monologue like that.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of earned it.
Yeah, they're kind of doing what like Tesla wants to pull off, or not Tesla. What's the guy who made Tesla?
Musk.
Elon. Oh,
something.
Muskie.
Is it Musk?
Elon Musk. Yeah.
Why do I always put an N in there?
I don't know.
I'm just making shit up.
Yeah. Old Muskie.
That's
it.
Maybe because I don't think his name should be Musk. Like that should be no one's name.
Listen to this name, everyone. I know it's been normalized. Elon Musk.
That's
ludicrous.
A real person's name.
It's fine. We're all agreed that it's a thing.
Right.
And that's what you do with names. You just pick a couple syllables and put them together, and everybody eventually is like, I guess that's fine.
Well, we're just like, okay, well, we'll let that one slide.
And like, I don't know, Elon might be a very traditional name from a country I'm not familiar with or a culture I'm not familiar with, but it is with Musk and after it, any name is going to sound ridiculous. And so for it to be a name I've never heard, it's even more so.
Like if his name was like Eric, it'd be different.
Yeah, right. So then we get the Sirach, the young-faced Sirach, which I can't tell if this is just like a CGI or if it's an actor that they hired that looks like a young Sirach. But, ooh, excuse me. But he's got one of those faces that's like hot despite itself. Do you know what I'm saying?
What you mean. Yeah.
Where you're just kind of, he's sort of like an Uma Thurman look, where you're just like, ugh, like you're not really attractive, but you still are though. Like how? And we get our first like look at the that like white circle inside of the ring of like black floaty ink, which we wind up seeing later on his watch.
Right.
But it's a weird thing. Like the first time that we see it, we don't have any of this context, and I'm not totally sure what this circle is unless it's like maybe the prediction of his death. And like, because when he looks at it eventually later this episode,
towards the end, it's all like out of balance. Like there's a lot of like blackness. And you know what? I sometimes I'm like, I'm going to go dig into and read all the things that everybody is saying about the show, and then I don't do it. But I took it to mean like it's some sort of like visual representation of if the system is working the way it's supposed to work, like almost like in balance.
Okay.
You know?
Gotcha. So like a
and
thermometer, kind of.
Almost.
Yeah.
And then like if things are, awry, then it reacts in different, spreads out on this side, or it contracts or whatever. Let's
You looking it up now?
While we continue to discuss.
Well, I'll go into the next scene because like that's the opening, and then we have him talking to some president, and it seems like it's kind of an anonymous South American country. I don't feel like we're told, right, specifically who this guy represents.
Yeah, just that they're speaking Portuguese.
Oh, is it Portuguese? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was speaking Spanish, and that when Sirach answered, his French accent just came out so hard that it sounded like Portuguese. I didn't realize that it was all Portuguese. Gotcha. So this dude's like, we can have this meeting back in the presidential palace, and Sirach's like, no. I have to talk to you about something. There is a nascent separatist movement, and I love that there's like a translator on the earpiece. So he is not speaking this guy's language to him now, but eventually he does. Yeah. So he could have the whole time.
Power.
Yep.
Real quick about his watch. So yeah, that's what it is. It's that same image. That white circle with the black outline is what's on like the title cards, I guess, when in the episode. Sometimes when it has like the little divergent thing in the upper corner of the episode. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what his watch is doing. Whenever there's an anomaly, it reacts by spiking or spreading out or whatever. That's what it's telling him.
Okay, so he tells this guy that this thing is happening in the north of your country. There's a fly buzzing around, which I can't tell if that's like significant because of the whole fly thing with like season 1, or if it's just
There's a throwaway line too at some point where he talks about flies being in the ointment. Sirach says about the perfect plan,
yeah,
of how this machine is supposed to work, but there is always a fly in the ointment.
So he hands this guy the thing to, like, look at the conflict, like, and he says, my intelligence hasn't heard anything about these separatists. Your intelligence knows only what I want them to. And there is a small group, anomalies. Even they won't know they will act until they do. Rehoboam is privy to all sorts of hidden truths. I said it, and that's the last I'll ever say it. For example, the private deals you've cut to restrict manganese extraction to some of your friends, which have squeezed money out of villages in the north, creating unrest, you will stop. And the problem will go away. And when he says, and the problem will go away, he blinks at him in the most kindly old man sort of way for a second. Legit, his eyes are grandpa eyes, just for a moment of just, you see how reasonable I'm being here, buddy? I'm just looking out for you. It's fine, no big deal. But then this man tries to do the whole posturing, you just came here to threaten me? My fucking military is standing right here. And he's so
slow on the uptake.
Oh my God.
Like this guy, I love that he still thinks he's in a position of power here in this moment. Like, read the room.
Yeah. And he's like, we made a deal that when we ensured your election, you would do what you were fucking told. You didn't. Guess what? You can be replaced and no one will miss you. They'll be delighted to rip you and your family out of your home in the middle of the night and fucking cut your heads off in the street. And that fancy man with the fucking mustache over there will be all too ready to take your fucking place, and it will be no problem. And then he just gets up and leaves. And it's honestly, I wish that I would ever have a moment in my life where I got to feel like that fucking baller. But it'll never happen. I
mean, to just like saunter off towards your private jet after you told the president of a country that they better
to
fucking
eat a dick.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, not even one of his men makes any attempt to stop him or do anything. Like, everybody knows who is in charge here except for this president who has just found out.
Yeah, it feels that way. It really does. I mean, Sirach doesn't do anything that would elicit a response, you know.
I guess
never
not.
Really,
yeah.
You know. But it's still gotta be soups humiliating.
Yeah, I don't fancy being one of these guys like underlings for the next few days because he's just going to take that shit out on everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He's just going to be yelling at everybody for no good reason.
So then we go to the brothers, and they are talking about how Dempsey, is that his name?
Yeah, how Dempsey gets involved, who is Liam's father. Mm-hmm. And they need his data and his money, quite frankly, to bankroll their project.
Right.
And this scene, he is frustrated because there have been some failures. He's starting to feel like this is a waste of his money. And Sirach's brother, whose first name I
didn't even notice his brother's first name. That's a good question.
Like Sirach's first name is, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Yeah, I'm just over here being like, yeah, Sirach's his first name. What? Of course it's not his first name.
But
but
he's already like, we should just kill this motherfucker.
I cannot believe how quick, and he is standing so close to him when he says this. Like, they're really close to this guy. Mm-hmm. We should just kill him. He'll simply get in the way. And you see how fucking startled Sirach looks.
Right.
Like, he's just genuinely like, wait, what?
He does say it in French, but still, it's pretty bold to fucking,
I like to think that if somebody said, we should kill her in French in front of me, that I would know what
You
they
would
said.
still pick it up.
I would like to, and maybe I'm wrong. I honestly don't, but yeah. So,
and I think this is when we first see that his brother is
fine as hell.
Well, there's that. But also, like a little bit unstable, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. I mean, we see a little bit later that there's because there was a temptation for me to be like, what's going on with this thing is so huge that it's like weighing on him somehow. But Sirach says later, my brother's personality was always like that. Mm-hmm. And it was inevitable, regardless of what he got involved in, that he was eventually going to go in a bad direction. A brilliant mind, but uniquely troubled. Yeah.
It's like, almost like rewatching Arnold and Ford.
Yeah, very, very much so.
At the beginning, and they've created this thing, and even though, I'm not sure who gets to be Ford and who gets to be Arnold of these two brothers.
Right. Yeah.
But, this creating something that's so powerful that the world really hasn't seen anything like it, and having the two bear that weight and have in two very different ways, to the point where, we know that Arnold ends up basically taking his own life from the weight of everything.
Right.
And then for Sirach's brother, he's not taking his own life, but he's, seemingly becoming a little bit frayed around the edges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we come back to the present, and he is being alerted to some signals that are something that he has put his team on the alert for, because I guess they are meant to signal that Delores is got her fingers into the system. Mm-hmm. And they tell him that one of the signals recently came from Liam's private compound. And he's like, well, go fucking find Liam. And they're like, oh, we tried. He's missing. He went to a private event and he was not alone.
Yeah.
And they show him a picture of Delores, and he looks very irritated because he anticipated that shit was going to start, but this is going obviously faster than he ever expected. He says, activate every asset we have. I want her caught. And it turns out every asset he had is not enough.
Yeah, it turns out, right? Which is surprising, because a man of his means, you would think, would have a lot of assets.
You would think.
But really, it's, in my opinion, a relatively small response.
Right, yeah.
And it's got to be, to not be able to find someone, even for a minute, for Sirach, has got to be, what is the point of having this fucking machine if I can't find everybody I need to find, the minute I need to fucking find them? They catch up to them pretty quickly, though, in that car.
Yeah.
But still, having to tell him, we don't know where he is right now, that nobody wants to be the one bringing that news, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So we cut to Delores, Caleb, and Liam in this tunnel that they're walking through. And Liam's just wearing a shirt that literally says basic on it.
Listen, I loved it so much.
I mean, why would one purchase such a shirt?
I mean,
Did Delores have this for him? Did she clothe him?
This is what I'm wondering, because as far as I can tell, is he still in his tux pants and his, dress shoes and just wearing his t-shirt? Because when they scooped him up, it was at the fancy party and he was in black tie. So I guess they didn't want to... I mean, she obviously has changed clothes, and Caleb has changed clothes. They were all dressed in formal attire too, so
True.
You know, they clearly they had like clothes for him to get into. So that makes me think, like, maybe it's supposed to, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be like Caleb's clothes, like basic training or something, but I just like that it's just a shirt that says basic.
I mean, that just rude.
It just, it's really great.
The only time I've ever wanted something that was like, you know, actively like admitting to basicness was a fall mug with leaves on it that said, "'Tis the season to be basic," which that I identified strongly with. I am a very basic fall bitch. Give me a pumpkin spice latte, give me a scarf, give me some Uggs. I don't own Uggs, but if I did, I would wear them at fall. Yes, I know I live in Texas and it's 82 degrees. Give me my fucking Uggs. But anyway, so he's asking, first of all, Caleb wants to know why we're even bothering with this guy, because we have all of his money. What do we need him for?
Right.
And she says, access. And he says, Liam is like, what are you even fucking, who are you? What are you even trying to do? And she's like, oh, you want to see who I am? And she puts his glasses on him because apparently these glasses are like, he can scan a person's face and see their history and shit in his glasses.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it has to do with like the chip that they all have, you know?
I do not know.
Or if it's scanning that, or if it is just like facial recognition. But he's able, whoever's wearing the glasses, you're supposed to be able to just get like the whole history of the person.
Yeah.
And he looks at Delores and there is nothing there. I also like that Liam is under the impression that his men are coming to save him.
Oh, bless him.
He still thinks he has men.
He just, like, this is what happens when you're somebody who has everything. You cannot comprehend when all of that's gone. Like, your brain doesn't adjust. You know? I'm reading this book right now, and it's a member of the royal family, like 35th in line for the throne, like distant cousin, but still royalty. And it's the early 30s when the crash has happened, and basically she's got this title, but she's got no actual money. And she has to learn how to boil water and dress herself because she doesn't have the money for servants anymore. And when she's talking to friends who have not experienced the same kind of, you know, loss that she has, they keep on like being like, well, just ask so-and-so to do the thing. And she's like, I don't have one of those anymore. Well,
she still has rich friends.
Yeah, she's still got friends who have money, and like they're just, you know, being like, well, we'll stop at the store and you'll get a second pair of shoes. And she's like, I don't have money for shoes. And they'll say things like, you can pay us back later. And she's like, later when? I won't have money later either. Like, she's just, you know, and it really is the kind of like people who just, this is why having the richest people on planet Earth running things makes no sense, because they don't understand where everyone else is coming from on anything. They don't understand what it's like to have to choose between going to the dentist or paying back your fucking student loan. They don't know what it's like to decide between going and getting my depression medication or my birth control. Do I want to kill myself or do I want to get pregnant?
I mean, they're all like built themselves up by their bootstraps, though. So like they supposedly understand it because they were there once too, even though they literally were never. They ever there.
Definitely weren't, and you can tell when you talk to people and they try and act like they know. You can tell by the way the examples they give whether they were ever there, because there's just a certain kind of mindset that doesn't leave you, I think.
Yeah.
And they don't have it.
Yeah, I think the only people that we see that really are able to leap, you know, from not just poverty, but in many cases poverty, to extraordinary wealth is via entertainment or athletics.
Agreed.
You know, like there are some supposedly self-made business people, right? that really came from nothing. We'll like to say that they came from nothing, but then when you go and look at it, you find out they had like $1 million in capital that their friends and family raised. But otherwise, it's, if you're like a basketball player or something, then yeah, you remember what it was like. But then you're also not like having Bill Gates money.
Right, yeah. It's a different kind of wealth. And there's like an expiration date on that shit too.
Yeah.
When you're an athlete, at least.
Yeah, because that kind of wealth isn't the kind that just builds on itself by just being there,
And it's also like hugely, again, a thing we never like to admit, hugely dependent on luck. If you're an athlete and you haven't been injured and gotten taken out of play, congratulations, you got lucky. You didn't get injured.
Right.
Don't try and pretend other people got injured because they did something wrong necessarily. If you're an entertainer and you didn't noticed,
work as hard.
It was luck that you got noticed by the right person.
Yeah, you're not like the best singer that ever happened,
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is just not. Granted, in Liam's defense, his situation changed quickly.
Yeah, it did. It's great.
Like 20 minutes ago, as far as he knew, he was one of the wealthiest people
This
in the world.
is why we need Anonymous to get on their shit. Where are you guys? You're supposed to be doing shit like this. Help us out. I want some Instagram of some rich asshole who just posted all of his Rolexes in their little fucking display case. I want the next post to be like, just, what the fuck? That's all I'm looking for. Give me that.
So he is, he's befuddled. And he doesn't understand what Delores is. He's being really shitty to Caleb, too, when he, because Caleb is like, you're the one that sent me to fight a bullshit war and get all my friends killed. And what Delores wants from him is this key.
Yeah.
To access the system to get done what she needs to get done. And Liam is being very reluctant. And she's like, look, Sirach knows that you're the one that was trying to buy out Delos.
Yeah. To which she's like, what do you mean? Oh, kid, come on.
And then he tries to like tell Caleb, she used me, she's going to use you too, man. What are you doing?
And there's like a bit of Caleb like blinking with, well, yeah, probably she is. I guess I'll eventually find out. Like there's a real sense to Caleb of, I'm not an idiot. I know I'm being used, but also I'm choosing to be used. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't mind because I think what I'm being used for is ultimately worthwhile. Which is a kind of a leap of faith for him because Delores is not cluing him in at every moment.
No.
She's basically telling him what they're doing right before they do the thing.
Yeah. Which honestly, I am 100% here for Delores, just like telling him exactly as much as he needs, not even needs to know, telling him exactly what he thinks to ask.
Yes.
Because if it's outside of what he really decides that he wants to know and then specifically ask for, he's not finding that out,
Yeah. She is being very, not evasive, but just like you said, she's answering just what he asks. And nothing more.
She's kind of like a fairy.
Oh, how funny.
You know what I mean? Like the fae, they won't lie. But and not to say that Delores wouldn't lie, but I'm just in that comparison. They will answer your question, but they won't necessarily give you the information that you really needed within that the answer. Right. They'll answer you without answering you, kind of thing.
Yeah, very careful with what information.
Yeah,
and they, it appears on the surface like she's answered the question. That's the other weird thing about Caleb is that he just seems to be satisfied and doesn't really have a lot of follow-up questions. And I think that has a lot to do with just where he was when the story started and just his willingness to throw in with her.
Yeah.
Which, you consider his combat history and having been a member, of a team, it's not unfamiliar to him to throw in without having the full information. Like
Yes.
he's done this before. He's gone and fought people and killed people on order without having the full plan laid out for him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a soldier, and this is what soldiers kind of do. They don't ask a lot of questions.
That's something that I feel people like. I could see the criticism coming down that people might be like, why is Caleb willing to do this and not ask why or not like demand answers? And I really don't know if people who haven't like met somebody who has been involved in military, who have been a soldier, understand how deep that obedience goes when you run up against somebody who that like really makes you feel like they're an authority.
Yeah.
And that is something that I saw from my dad, who was just, it's just a really wild thing to watch happen when my father was a very aggressive personality, and to watch the way that he would obey all of a sudden when I was not used to seeing that from him at all. It's a weird thing to like wrap your brain around. And because Caleb is obviously, he's not somebody without his own mind. He's an intelligent person who's like thought through a lot of, the problems of this era, and he has intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's not the lack of that. It's just this sort of like ingrained switch that gets flipped, that got installed at some point.
Yeah. It feels very much like when you are of that mind and you encounter somebody, to your point, that exudes like authority, that seems like they know what the fuck they're doing. You trust them.
Yep.
You trust them to lead you. I mean, this is a super extreme case when you talk about the military and combat in the show, but we all, well, not all of us, a lot of us have similar dynamics, like you have to, if you have a job, at some point you have to sort of hope that the people that you're working for know what they're doing, and trust them to lead your organization or your team or whatever in the right direction, and you can't question everything as much as you would like to.
Yeah. Because
the way the corporate structure is set up, you're not supposed to be asking all these questions. You're supposed to be just doing what you're told. And a lot of us have positions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at times they'll purposefully like create a sense of urgency so that it feels as if you don't have time to question things, or that if you do, you're costing your teammate something.
Yes. Yep.
So then you have this whole guilt complex on top of everything. It's super manipulative.
Yeah, that gets really exploited too.
Yeah.
Like again, I feel really gross making comparisons to like corporate work or any type of like occupation that does not involve like your life being in danger, to what it's like to be in the military. But the other thing that happens is when you have a unit, right, you become loyal to your unit, to the people that you are with side by side.
Right.
And if you're given the impression that your doubt and your questions and your hesitation could cost them their lives, then you're not going to do any of those things. And like if you have a job like I do, and the impression is if you don't get everything done, it could cost team members their jobs, or whatever, like their positions or their bonuses or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it make your team look bad. You end up working harder out of loyalty to your teammates more than you do out of loyalty to the particular company you work for.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you go into work when you're sick, not because you really care about your boss, but because you don't want to fuck over your teammates, And also because you can't afford to miss a day at work.
Oh,
There's
yeah, there's also...
Don't forget about the capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, when you said, like, I don't want to compare it to people whose lives are on the line, your lives are on the line. It's just a very slow death.
That's true.
It's just a different, like, the scale is a little off, and the immediacy is a little different, but nevertheless.
Right. So he, fucking Liam. This guy.
I was like, what? How did he have this in his hands and they didn't know? I got really mad that this was not something.
This is why I think he's still in his pants I think he's still in his dress pants.
Okay. I guess that would make sense.
I was trying to pick out the shoes he was wearing, but I couldn't make them out. Because somehow if he's still in his dress shoes, then this is even funnier to me. It makes no sense. But if he's wearing hard shoes with that basic t-shirt, I will just laugh forever about it.
There are things about fashion that if somebody doesn't know and you try and explain it, the fact that you have to explain it at all, you're already behind. This hard shoes with like a t-shirt thing. Fucking Owen did this shit 2 weekends ago.
No.
We were, and he was like wearing it. It was like, and he got out of the car, and I didn't even notice that he was wearing them until we got out of the car wherever we were, and I was like, "What are you? What? Why do you have those shoes on?" And he's like, "Oh, I wanted to look nice." And I was
No,
like,
you didn't.
but not enough, apparently. Like, evidently. It's just one of those, like, and he could not understand why my face was just like a blank.
Oh my God.
I was just like, and I just dropped it because, like, how do you explain if somebody doesn't know that doesn't work? That's no good.
Oh my God. How adorable was Owen?
Oh my God, he's a real precious cinnamon roll. You good boy. So we have this moment. This is really interesting, and I have no idea what to think here. But Caleb gets up in Liam's face, says, "Go ahead and see who I am. What does it say that I swallow my own gun on some beach? Go on, tell me who I am." And Liam looks at him using his glasses. They're whirring. Mm-hmm. And he gets a real freaked out look. And then backs away from him and almost seems to look over his shoulder. Mm-hmm. It's like what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he's seeing some stuff about Caleb that maybe Caleb doesn't remember or realize is in there.
And he says, "You think I killed your friend? And then, who are you people?" And I was like, oh. Caleb is that off that you're lumping him in with blank slate Delores? That is serious. To just be like, who are you people?
Yeah.
It's not just, who the fuck is this bitch and why are you working for her? You people. What the fuck is up with Caleb then? Yeah.
He gets so sketched out.
Oh my God.
What was that? Was that your phone?
That was Siri. It says that it recorded me saying, "You people, what the fuck is up with Caleb then?" And she replied, "I don't know how to respond to that. This is how it starts."
Jesus Christ, that's eerie.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Get it? Siri? That's eerie? That's Siri.
See, now we're done. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Sorry.
Caleb has a flashback, and he's like, "What did you see? What did you see?" Mm-hmm. And it's him, like, pushing somebody who has a hood over their head.
Yep.
And he's, like, shoving them somewhere.
Looking over his shoulder. Like, when he's doing it, there's a vibe to him of, like, people aren't supposed to know I'm doing this or see me,
Yeah, yeah.
And then he drops. And it turns out that it's a drug called genre that he's been injected with. Mm-hmm. And we get this incredible method of telling a story that the show decided to do, where they're going to go through a series of filters and musical accompaniment and film style. Mm-hmm. Beginning first with a noir experience.
I love this one so much.
This is so funny to me. I really enjoy how everything around him goes black and white before he does. He sort of finally, like, fades out. And he's looking around like there's a feeling for me when he's going up the stairs, I was like, oh, he's already okay. But no, he is not. He can walk and apparently seems to be with it when we're seeing things from his perspective. But once we're outside of that and look at him from other people's eyes, he's no good.
Right. Yeah. He thinks he's fine.
Yeah.
But he is not fine. And I love the music that's playing in this too.
Mm-hmm.
This scene. I love that. Like, I don't know if you have not really done a lot of hallucinogenics.
No.
It is a hard thing to describe. It's been a difficult thing for me to describe. Other people, write whole books about it. But that thing of that moment before you realize that, oh no, wait, I'm the one that's fucked up. Mm-hmm. Is always such a strange little period because, you're just like, oh, I'm fine, Mm-hmm. And then you'll notice something or see something, and then you'll be like, oh shit, wait, no, I'm not fine at all. But by then, it's too late. You're already like, there's nothing else you can do about it, but just be fucked up until you're not fucked up anymore.
Yeah, I have never done anything hallucinogenic. I mean, weed doesn't count as a hallucinogen, does it?
Oh, you know what?
I feel like it has like some
so.
Properties, but it isn't really classified that way.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think just like LSD, mushrooms, peyote.
Is acid and LSD the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if like ecstasy is considered a hallucinogenic. I don't know if it's in that.
I think you can see trails, if I recall, based on what my roommate in college told me when I very cruelly waved my hands a lot in front of her face
while she was tripping.
Yep. Listen, that's what she gets. She brought some dude home who kept trying to pet my hair. So, I don't know.
The very first time I ever took acid, I remember we were waiting for it because, the timing of when it hits, is different for everybody, and it depends on what you had. Mm-hmm. And we all dosed, and then we were waiting for it to come on. We all got dressed. We were going to a show, and I was on the subway. I was on the Broad Street subway.
That feels like a real bad time for that.
And I was standing. There was, and I had my hand on like one of the straps,
Mm-hmm.
And I took my hand down and moved it in front of my face, and I saw the trails. Mm. And I was just like, so then I tapped my girlfriend I was with, and I was like, look! And then we just giggled for 40 minutes like assholes.
I'm glad that she could see them as well, because if you just said look and waved your hands around and she didn't know what you were talking about because it hadn't hit her yet.
I am not 100% sure she could see it, but I totally did not care.
That's fair.
I was very excited about seeing them. Oh, that was ages ago, though. Don't do drugs, kids. Just say no.
Just say no. So they get into a rideshare vehicle. First, Delores, there's some motorcycle that brings her something, and
then she's like, stay close.
Yeah, and then they get into this rideshare vehicle.
It brings her that big ass gun.
Is that what it is?
I think so, because then she hands it. They get in the car. And she pulls it out, and he's just like, what the fuck is that?
Can I tell you that I have this pause right now, and I'm realizing they just took a left onto Hope Street?
Oh.
You know what, show? You could just tone it down a tiny bit. It's fine. Chill. So, yeah, we see a car driving past them in the opposite direction, do a quick U-turn to come after them. And this fucking goober is still trying to be like, see, they're coming to get me. They're still coming to get me. And she's like, oh my God, these are not your people.
Right?
Dude, holy shit. Can you not tell that this isn't a rescue? This isn't how they would handle this.
This is very hostile to be a rescue.
Yeah. And
then
there's
the
an Amber
car.
Alert. I mean, it's a cool idea, but...
You know, it is not a cool idea.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you could issue an Amber Alert and have that vehicle just be disabled somewhere, in theory, because of what an Amber Alert is allegedly for, that's great. Somebody's trying to kidnap a kid, and all of a sudden, cars forced to stop. Awesome.
Right.
But the thing is that you get these things put in place for an alleged situation, and then you just decide to use them however the fuck you feel like. And that's how laws are made, everybody. So, yeah. I agree that in truth, this is not cool. But I could totally understand why, were this put to a vote, everybody would be on board with it.
Oh, well, 100%.
You know?
100%.
So then we have the final moment where Liam has to decide between defying Delores just because or saving his own ass for Christ's sake. And it literally takes gunfire hitting the sides of their vehicle before he is willing to fucking do it. It is pathetic. This man is such an idiot. God damn, what is it like to be that certain that you're going to be fine? But yes,
there's this car chase scene is so over the top,
it's
so much fun. She basically gives Caleb like a little mini rocket launcher of some kind, and he's all fucked up. He's like out the back of the car aiming at one of the trucks that's chasing them, and it misses, and he's just like, I missed. And she's like, hold on a second.
When I tell you the fucking clap I did on the treadmill when they focus in on the rocket as it flips over and heads back down, I was just like, oh, no! Like, I think I might have said it out loud. Yeah.
And then Delores is in the back seat, and she's giving instructions to her little motorcycle to come and like intercept, and then it's armed with explosives, and she just sends it to like crash right into one of the other cars that's pursuing them. And
and it should be mentioned that throughout all of this, Caleb has changed genres.
Oh God, that's right.
So we are now in which really adds some gravitas to these rockets.
It really does. And that's is that Apocalypse Now? Mm-hmm. Is that what? Yeah, right.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah,
yep, that's that guy. Show is.
And then after all of the explosions, I think Caleb switches again.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it seems like anytime something sort of major gets his attention, that's when it shifts. And it doesn't have to be something that's objectively major, because at one point it's literally just her touching him on the shoulder. Mm-hmm. But because he hasn't really like been touched, it seems, in fucking God knows how long, that is turns it into like a weird romance tragedy genre. I don't even know what you call it, but anyway. So yeah, it's so good. I just really enjoyed watching this. I also really enjoy getting to see Jesse Pinkman high again, which I didn't think I was going to get to see.
Right. I thought about when I was watching this too. I was like, oh,
he just has to act stoned so much. This isn't even something that's like exists either, that you could go and study people's reaction to it. You just have to be like, I guess I'll do E here and heroin here. So yeah, we shift to this romance moment where he's like staring at Delores as she shoots.
He's looking at her like, where's this woman been my whole life?
It's a very like,
and she looks at him like, the fuck are you looking at?
That expression on her face. I love, like, that expression is what I feel like, this moment that I feel a lot of girls go through in high school. Right before they have started to realize that they are attractive and the boys like them, dudes will make this face around them. And they will not know what the fuck this dude's problem is right now. And just sort of stare and be like, "What? Why are you acting all fucking weird?" And then 20 years later, they're like, oh, that's what that was.
His face, though, it's so good.
It's so good. And, like, once she finally looks at him and makes eye contact, he sort of, like, realizes, oh, I must protect my lady. And then begins to also shoot.
There's this great shot of them, like, side by side, you know, and it really is the kind of shot you would see, you know, in a movie about, like, a couple, like a badass couple, you know, fighting whomever, right? Yep. Like, you would get that shot of them side by side, simultaneously, you know, blowing shit up. And then fucking Ash and Giggles roll in.
I was so excited to see them. I'm a little bummed because it looks like they're not going to remain, but I wanted them to stay real bad.
Liam, Little Lord Fauntleroy.
That's such a good, that's excellent.
Oh God, it is so good. And I guess because Ash is like, you rang, so. You know, I'm assuming that Caleb, or it had to be Delores, maybe, right? Puts a job out for them?
Somebody, yeah. I was trying to figure that out because it sounded like they said it to Caleb.
Well, when they come out, they say to Caleb, oh, you're doing personals now. Like, they're treating him like he just happened to answer the same job that they answered.
Yeah, I guess they do. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, so they come up, and this is like right after most of the opposition has been mown down. There's a couple people that it looks like just like literally run away in the background. But yeah, this was very enjoyable. Fucking Giggles' shirt has every emotion lit up. Which I think means, I guess it makes sense when shit's going off like this. But one of the things that's lit up is bored. And I feel like that can't be true.
That can't be right.
Like, there's no way.
Maybe there's just a short in a shirt or something.
So, yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's like when your heart rate passes a certain amount.
Right, everything.
Just like, who fucking knows? Meanwhile, Giggles is looking at Caleb and is like, oh, I know what you're on, friend. Yeah. That is serious.
And he gives him a heads up to watch out for the very last one.
Which is reality? Is that the one?
That's a good question, because when they come out, when Caleb says which one is this, and Giggles says reality, I thought he just meant the drug, you're done.
Yeah.
This is just right. But right before that happens, when they're on the train, and Caleb has that really weird moment where he sees somebody in uniform, or he thinks he sees. I thought that was like the last.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that.
So while this is all happening, by the way, we've got Connell, is it?
Mm-hmm.
And Connells, and he is with Bernard. They are walking. Bernard very blank-eyed and, impassive, because as it turns out, he has basically been shut down except for walking.
Right.
And Connells is, as we know, also Delores, but occupying Connells' mind? I don't even know if I want to call it that. Apparently is like kind of getting to him too already, because when Bernard mentions that, he reacts as if he knows precisely what the fuck Bernard is talking about.
Talking about blurring the lines a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that makes sense to me, because we saw what happened to the real Connells, right? So if this is just a Connell bot, like a body,
like it's just his body, like that's been
fabricated, not his actual human body, because that got dragged off into the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just like a host that was built, and the Delores Pearl is in it. But it's like the Tessa Pearl, right?
Right.
And she also is having the same problems, talking about, like, I feel like she's in me and she's trying to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if I understand how that works, unless when the Delores Pearl gets in the body of whomever she's impersonating, if somehow they download the files or you know what I mean?
That's what I was asking about with Charlotte, because, like, it doesn't make sense if they download files. How does she not know she's got a son? But then we were like, well, she knows this information is compromised. Maybe she just kept that super secret. But when we, like, interrogated how you could even keep it secret, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Right. So it's got to, in order for the Connellbot, the Delores Connells to function undercover, it has to still have access to all the information the real Connells would have, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe, but then to your, what you just said about Hale not, like, thinking about her son. Maybe it wasn't so much that she didn't know about her son in the way that it sounds like, but just that
she didn't think about him.
Yeah, she didn't think about him.
Maybe. Because I definitely took the wake up who as, like, genuine do not know. But maybe it's just that it was not habit for her to consider him at all.
Right. And there's probably so much information that she has to cycle through, that maybe that's all it was.
That would make more sense, because otherwise, how can she possibly pull off being who she is without anybody worrying? Yeah. Because otherwise, she's not going to know people's names necessarily, like... She'd just meet somebody and be like, oh, great to meet you. And they're like, we work together literally every day. What are you talking about?
And both Hale and Connells are still working in these positions where they, they are accessing all kinds of information and, and they, have to know who people are, passwords and where shit is. And so, yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the host Pearl having all this living data dumped into them, into their Pearl, and that's what's causing, like, the weird conflict and blurring that Bernard is talking about. Now, the question for Bernard is, how does he know about that? Why is it happening to him? He's still just, Bernard.
Well, right? He's Bernard, but he's got what's his face in there partially, doesn't he?
Oh, right.
I can't remember his name. Arnold?
Right.
Is it Arnold? What's the other one's Ford? Ford and Arnold, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he means, because it's, he says that it's not that binary. So that's sort of what I assumed, is that he's just sort of coping with, like, constantly being a bit of both and not knowing who's really coming out ahead or if it matters.
Right. Huh. Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting moment, because when he says, have you questioned why she's asking you to do all of this? There's a response from Connells, like, in his body language, that makes me feel like Connells definitely has a little, but not even let themselves acknowledge that they've been having those questions.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, a bit of a pause. Mm-hmm. And, like, you see, like, just a little bit of a crack.
Yeah.
But it's really short. And by the end of the episode, we know 100% that Connells was about that life. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there is this moment where it feels like a little bit of doubt.
Yeah. So we wind up seeing later on what happens with Connells, because he literally is like, well, I'm done now, so.
Yeah. Yep, my role's finished.
Which is, honestly, that has got to be a good place to be, right? I had a function. I fulfilled it. I am complete and done.
And I get to take out a little bit with me.
Yeah, fuck these people.
You know?
I don't know. Kind of like jealous a little bit.
Yeah.
I hope that when I die, it feels that purposeful and like satisfying.
This moment where Connells and Bernard are at the dock station or whatever at the Rehoboam, and it's Delores talking to Bernard and explaining about what it does, and this is their god, and it tells them where to live, where to work, who to love, what to do, to keep them all on their loop. And this is the moment where he's like, oh, you've always been of two minds.
Yeah.
And that's what gets them starting to talk about,
yeah,
how the world start to bleed into each other.
Meanwhile, Delores is requesting files on Serac.
And all files.
It's a really cool little moment that took me a minute to understand what was happening, because she's like, the camera's in front of her and Caleb, and he's behind her, and she taps the files, and her eyes lift and begin to move as if she's reading something. And I didn't realize that was what was happening, literally, is that she's seeing the files in her eyes.
Right,
which is
right.
a pretty wild thing to be able to do. She doesn't need these fucking glasses.
I love that when Delores is with Caleb and Liam and they're getting into the building, Liam is like, well, it's not going to work because you got to be at the fucking, thing.
God.
You can't be at
Two
two places
at
at once.
This fucking guy.
Like, I know he's not supposed to be a joke, I don't think. Or maybe he is. But, like, everything that he's just so wrong about just everything. And the fact that this character was, when the season first starts and you first meet Liam, I think it's clear that he's a putz, right?
Yeah, agreed.
But I didn't expect him to be taken down quite so thoroughly and to be as just, I don't want to say he's not important because he clearly is to this plan.
Weak.
But, yeah, weak. And like, I thought, okay, this guy is a putz, but he has a lot of power that Delores needs. And it turns out that he doesn't really have any power at all.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really good little shift. I thought that it was going to be, he was going to be more consequential than he turns out to be.
Yeah, he's literally just in the way.
Yeah, he has some things that are useful, like the key and his money, but he's got no real power. He's got no influence. He's not controlling anything.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, Delores clearly put a lot of time into getting into his life, and, she needed to be able to do all that. But it must have just really sucked for her.
I can't, like, whenever people like to sort of belittle using your womanly wiles to get information, but y'all don't know how fucking tedious womanly wiles are when they have to be applied to dudes like this. And it's not even necessarily that it's so hard to do. It's not difficult. But that's what makes it so tedious. That it's just so predictable and so easy. An episode that I recently covered of Gravity Falls, there's this woman that this dude thinks is like totally into him and a perfect match, really thinks he's funny. And it turns out that she is a giant spider, secretly, that wants to eat him, and so does the same things with every dude because it always works. And it's just like she's talking to him, and You are so easy. Do you know? It's so funny. Great story. I love hairy shoulders. And he's just like, man, that is fucking true, though. Anyway, yeah. So...
I love hairy shoulders.
And his response is, you were lying when you said you liked my hairy shoulders, and he's really hurt. So we go into a memory here because Delores is looking at his files. And so we see Sirach demonstrating the power of this thing for the first time accurately to Dempsey. And we're seeing Dempsey's response because it's the stock market.
Right.
And there's a point at which they show him a bunch of possible futures. And he says, which one will it be? And they say, which one do you want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we're talking about real power.
It is so upsetting to me that line on a fucking two-dimensional surface has this much control over our lives. It's just absolutely irrelevant to so many of us. And yet it controls everything. How did we get here?
It's
Capitalism is garbage.
It really is. I mean, just saying. He gets the look on his face too, like he's about to come all over everything when he realizes that this fucking machine has finally started to pay off for him.
Yep.
And he gets all, because he's like, whose money is this? And they're like, it's your money.
And at first he's like, you stole $100 million? And they're like, oh, we stole 5 1 week ago. And this man, I don't know how he doesn't fucking need to sit down.
I mean, I it's funny too because like 2 episodes ago when Delores is like, it's so easy to steal with them because they never notice it's missing.
Yep. We only stole 5 million. What? I'm getting so upset. Yeah, this fucking freaked me out. And it's really like, how messed up is that, guys? That I have watched this show where they predict how somebody will commit suicide and where. And I remained mostly unfazed. But you show me a manipulation of the stock market, and all of a sudden I'm really shook. That seems not right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I cannot wrap my brain really around the stock market and how we have all decided that is the measure of how well we are doing as a society, Yep. Like that is how we take our temperature here. We decide what is good and what is a bad day. And, I mean, it could be because I'm just older and I didn't pay attention to it when I was younger. But honest to God, I do not recall, every day the stocks being reported on like my local news. Like if there was like a really big drop or some kind of crisis, then that would take over the news cycle,
right?
But otherwise, you had to like find one of the business channels, or you had to like buy the Wall Street Journal or some shit to find out what the fuck this, And now, like when I watch my local news, there's a little ticker, in the corner.
Yeah. It's one of the first fucking apps that was on the iPhone standard that you couldn't delete.
Was it really? Jesus Christ. I mean, there was also a time when, before everyone had 401ks and people had pensions,
Yeah.
Like a lot of Americans were not in the stock market. Like most Americans weren't. It was, just something rich people did, and businesses did. But then once we all kind of got forced into caring about it because our retirements are tied to it, then
yeah,
here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, and that shit does get manipulated.
Oh my God,
not be,
100%.
Like as dramatic as what we're seeing in this episode, but yeah. I also, when we're in a new genre too now. Now we're in like this weird club scene.
Oh yeah, it's weird. It reminds me of like a Tarantino-esque sort of thing, where there's like real like poppy but retro music.
And the lights are all kind of like flashing different colors, like they're in a disco. It's like the
what?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to say it out loud.
What?
But they're heading down to the subway, and it's just like the most lit subway you've ever seen. It's I guess shit's popping on the way to the train.
So then we go back into this memory, and Sirach is talking about how Dempsey got greedy and began to try and manipulate things simply to benefit him with no real, concern for. I just really want to know when is enough. When is enough? Richest man on the planet, I would assume, already.
Yeah.
What more do you fucking want?
Everything. All of it.
All of it. To be alone. And then Sirach says, and we ran into a problem where after a certain point, the market just fell apart. And we began to realize that there were outliers that threw everything off, that we couldn't predict at all.
Yep.
And I finally began to notice that my brother was one of them. Mm-hmm. And it essentially all drove him mad.
Yeah.
And then we find out later what he decides to do, which is frankly, I don't even know what that is, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, man, because this up until for me is disturbing as Sirach's whole philosophy is, and his belief that not that he necessarily should be the one to call the shots. Like, he's pretending like really it's just about letting the machine and the algorithm do its magic. Mm-hmm. But as the person who controls that, he clearly feels like it's his vision that's going to save the world.
Right.
That's on its face deeply disturbing. Mm-hmm. But his reaction to the revelation that there will always be these outliers that ruin shit, and that they have to be contained. And when they get to the place and then we really they really start talking about it, one of the things he says is these are the ones that we push off into the military and let them get chewed up through the wood chipper.
Yep.
But and that was so upsetting because that is not, as fantastical as it sounds, it is not that different from how we are actually already functioning.
Yep.
It's really not that far off.
Yep.
And that shit is, that's not really what you want to think about right before you go to bed at night.
Nope. I'll tell you what, kids. This shit bum me out.
Yeah, a little bit.
A
little bit.
Like, I get it. I get what, and I understand the importance. But you just fucking need a break sometimes. From being woke a little. This moment on the train, right where Delores is going to release all the information, and Liam for the first time looks like he has a real
human kind of thinking about someone other than himself moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you can't, that'll kill everybody.
Yeah.
You can't do that. He calls her reckless.
Yeah.
You know, like, these people, when confronted with the truth of themselves, are not going to be able to handle it.
That's why therapy is a process.
Well, you know, but the thing, too, is that there's I think what Liam is missing is that he calls it the truth of themselves. But I don't know if I 100% believe that, that this information is the truth of who everyone is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It is probability,
Right?
You know? But if they are now off their loop, what the files say that who they are doesn't have to be.
That's my main question is like, you know, this. Okay. Oh, man, where to start with this whole thing? Because him protesting, he says, like, people will kill themselves, kill each other. And by the way, while he's talking about this, and Caleb is arguing with him about hope and taking that away from people, to which Caleb responds with, it's not real, though. It's one thing if it's genuine hope, because there is a possibility of things improving. That's not what we are living in. Y'all have decided already where to put your investments, and the hope they have, you've acted against already 20 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
So shut the fuck up about hope when y'all, literally the point of this program is to make sure things happen the way that they happen. That's directly counter to what hope is. And as he's talking about this in the background, which we have seen also in the station as they're like running through to get onto the train, flashing through is an advertisement for Insight that says home, date, job, which really, when you get down to it, I guess that is it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's those three categories. And I love the fact that I didn't realize how Insight was spelled until I saw it.
Oh, it's, ITE, right?
Yeah. I, of course, thought it was IGHT, like we have insight into your life. And then when I realized what it actually was, I could not. It was one of those moments where it's such a simple and perfect thing that your mouth falls open and you want to know, did somebody like figure this out, or did that come first and everything else came after? Did somebody have this, insight and insight, and then come up with WestWorld? Isn't that the first thing that happened? Because that feels like the order it would have to go in. Stumbling on this, it's just amazing that it can. Did somebody just go looking through like big book of synonyms, or not synonyms? What are they called? Homonyms? No,
Homonyms.
Is that it?
Yeah, words that sound the same but are different. Yeah.
Okay, but
Also known as homophones, I think.
Homophones. Well, it's all of our phones these days. Am I right? I high-five myself. So yeah, this all happening like, and my brain is just beginning to absorb it in the background as they're having this conversation. I love when he starts to say, I wasn't going to kill you. I could never bring myself to hurt you. And she says that same exact shit.
Right.
This is like going up against your ex who has had it.
Yeah.
She's done. And she just says that shit the way you've always fucking said it. Right back in your face.
Yep.
Like,
and she's like, don't forget, I know you. And then she's like, you wouldn't put your hands on me. You would pay someone to murder me.
No fool with this one. I think the whole way this goes, I was just really into it. So she decides to release everybody's information. And while this is happening, we have that scene with Caleb looking at somebody that seems to be his friend that died, perhaps, like on the train that he keeps catching a glimpse of, but then somebody will move in front of that spot and it seems like they're gone. Mm-hmm. And he keeps just having these like moments. Like it seems like seeing them from the back particularly like got to him somehow.
Right.
And when he talks about like false hope being just awful, there's this like story about laying traps for rats, and that if they were able to like swim around instead of like immediately drowning, it would give them, they would just swim around pointlessly for nothing because they were destined to die there in the end. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he is pretty much Team Delores, letting everybody have this information. And we watch it begin to hit people's phones.
Yeah, Liam tells Ash and Giggles about their files and has some really personal information available to, and they both seem kind of shook by it.
Yeah.
He says to Ash, you know, the brother that you think you're doing all the sacrificing and crime for to save and to help is going to end up making all of your crime look like nothing.
Yeah.
And tells Giggles that he's just going to end up dead in a ditch somewhere.
That he'll be lucky if that's what ends up happening.
Right.
Yikes.
So, yeah, people's phones start going off and we start getting glimpses into the info that they're seeing.
Yeah, we have this, I'll tell you guys right now. First of all, I could not read it. I was watching this on my phone, and it's quick. So I'm going to be going through those one by one and reading them to y'all, if y'all missed it too. And it'll be the first time I'm hearing of it as I do. So I just want to give you that preface here, because we're getting into that scene. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, couples really start grabbing at each other's phones all of a sudden.
Yeah, people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to go through the what people see on their phones?
I'm doing it. So we have this first dude grabbing it from his girlfriend with this sort of look on his face that to me says he's going to find out that she was cheating on him and he's about to go through her fucking DMs. Is the look on his face. And then the way he hands his phone to her is that you're not going to find shit on my phone. Go ahead and look. That's the vibe I got from him. I am absolutely 100% reading into this, but nevertheless. So the first one we see is a Karen. Classification U. Overall assessment, below average societal contribution. Mm-hmm. Projection, early onset Alzheimer's, 12 years. Recommendation, recessive traits detected. Eliminate genetic profile from gene pool. No reproduction allowed. We're into eugenics, kids. I guess it makes sense somebody's trying to commission us to watch Gattaca. Then we go to Davis Maria, blood relation, daughter. Overall assessment, major depressive disorder, high mortality risk. Projection, suicide, wrist injury, 5 to 8 years. Location, bathroom and residence. Risk factors, early warning signs detected in online behavior, familial history of anxiety disorders. So that is her mother reading it and holding her hand and looking at her daughter's wrist as she realizes.
She's like 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old.
Yep. She's a kid.
Yeah.
And as this stuff is circulating, we see Caleb's face, and he has a real sort of his brows furrow. And it seems like looking around at the way people are reacting, he's kind of not entirely sure.
Right.
He was right about this.
Yeah, a little bit of some doubt, you know. feeling just like maybe this was the wrong move. Maybe people can't. This business guy, too, by the way, did fucking... His profile says something like, he's not liked.
Oh, I didn't see that.
He's the guy that's standing by the doors. He's in a suit and tie.
Hold on, I'm going back to that one.
And, yeah, he's got a beard.
Oh, yeah, this guy that looks to me like a Leftovers guy.
Yeah, he kind of does look like Justin Theroux. Not as cute, though.
Peer assessment perception. Seen as unreliable and unstable. Friends, most common descriptors. Asshole, unreliable, crazy. Colleagues, most common descriptors. Unprofessional, flaky, loud. If only we were able to deliver these peer assessments, though, guys. For real.
You couldn't pay me to look at mine.
I like the number of arrogant white men out there who would begin to realize the fucking vibe they actually give off versus the so charming madman dude that they think they give off. I would pay to watch the faces of people. Like, and agreed, I don't want to fucking read mine. You can keep that shit to yourself. But
I mean, the fucking comments on the podcast is too much, quite frankly.
Actually, I average pretty well on that, so I think I'll go for it. Now that you say that. So then we go to Connells and Bernard. They're finishing up their conversation about, like, he says, you're gonna have to pick a side to Bernard, and Bernard's like, do I though? Like, I don't know if that's how that's going to work, really. And Connell's very sort of cavalierly is like, not all of us are going to survive, so I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah, doesn't seem completely bothered
at
all. And Bernard is watching this giant, like, digital map and seeing, I guess, in real time the information being disseminated, right?
Yep.
And he's just like, holy shit, she did it.
Yep. And as they exit the station, there's just like everybody has come to a stop.
Oh, it's like, I mean, everybody was standing around looking at their phone anyway, but this is a definite sense of like the tension is ramped up. It feels like almost panic.
Yeah.
You know? Like the way people are looking at, like, there's a lot of people like sitting on the ground with like their heads in their hand, and you know, it's clear that some shit has happened.
And I don't like that they can see like blood relations too, because even if your shit's good, you could drop on over to your sister's, and then that ruins your fucking day. You know, like, I just don't. There is nobody who's just going to come out clean with no devastating losses in their life. It's that kind of thing happens to everyone. It's just very different for each person. And, you know, but depending on your perspective, it's way less devastating for some than others because of what others do go through. But for that person, it's still, you know.
I want to just make a quick mention of when they are leaving the station and we get Liam once again. Like, you didn't think he could do it more than 2 or 3 times in an episode. Being so behind and not understanding. He says, you just ruined everybody's life in this station. Like, first of all, why would you think it was just the station? Like, why would you think that?
That's my main question.
Like,
where did he think that was like? They're not sending out an EMP, dude. You know? They're not generating a pulse from somewhere that is just like, what are you fucking talking about?
Like, she told you what she was doing. Why are you...
Jesus.
Basic.
And, and then we see another couple that's, like, fighting in the street. The dude, like, shoves her away from him.
Oh, shit's popping in the streets.
Yeah.
People are, like, breaking glass windows and
riding on the outside of cars. There's a lot of plants overturned on this little patio they're walking over.
Yeah. There's Liam says something like they're already returning to their base selves.
To which I'm like, bitch, you are your base self.
Right.
That's how you were. You're out here about to buy a sex worker who's on a fucking, like, auction block
Mm-hmm.
that looks like the girl you agreed to be murdered.
Yep.
Like, shut the fuck up. Oh, I get so irritated. Just because there's a 1 degree of remove between you and the thing does not mean that that is better. In fact, that's low-key more cowardly. Like, you just, I don't want to get my hands dirty. Ugh, punch his face.
Yeah, this sort of savior paternalistic complex that Liam does not deserve to have. He has not earned to have it, you know. But it's just been brought up into thinking that was his right to feel this way, you know. He goes on a bit of a tirade later in the episode, right before he gets fucking shot like he deserved. 100%. Where he starts talking about how people like you are just dragging the whole system down, you know. As though he has made contributions to the system, you know. And deserves his place. As opposed to have just been lucky and being born to somebody who was incredibly wealthy and powerful.
And that is the problem, kids, with equating how much someone is worth with how much someone is worth. Because then you just believe you're worth more and you have done nothing, added nothing, brought nothing to the table. You just been there, and everybody seemed so glad you were at the table that you figured that had to be for a reason.
It's true.
Narrator, it wasn't. So they are walking out of this station, and these 2 people get out of a car in slow motion for poor Caleb, who's like finally starting to come off this thing. And they open fire before he can do a damn thing. And Delores steps directly in front of him, shoots both of these people, takes 2 bullets herself, turns around to check that he's all right, and realizes she done gave her whole self away. And then just zips up.
And doesn't say shit about it.
Nope. And she gives him a look as she zips up, like she is not sure what to expect, which is kind of nice. Like, because he could have been like, you know, what the fuck? Which is probably what I would have done. Honestly.
You know? But like we said earlier, maybe he's just, you know, coming down off the drug and it's just, you know, whatever. But he has a very subdued reaction to watching her get shot 3 times.
She just she kind of is waiting for him to shoe drop, and when he doesn't, it seems more like, well, I don't really have time to sit around and wait and see, so I'm just going to keep going, and if you decide to freak out, I guess I'm just going to leave you here. I don't have time, you know. So
and the other 2 don't seem to have noticed it. Like,
no. It was a weird thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the way the scene is shot, we only see Caleb and Delores walk away. So I was like, oh, maybe they're done, and Giggles and Ash have gone off on their own. You know, the job is done. But then we see them all on the beach together. So I was like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then we cut to Sirach and the plane.
And that whole edge of that circle is just whoosh.
He is not happy.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's a pretty cool visual, honestly. I really do like they have just so much eye imagery in this show this season. They might have had it in other seasons and I just didn't notice, to be honest. That didn't occur to me until just now. But this season, it's very obvious. There's a lot of, like, standing in front of a thing that reflects down and makes it look like an open eye, or pulling away and the way the window falls with something else in the, you know, just a ton of that sort of imagery. So we go into another memory, and he's talking about how Dempsey was fine with just cashing checks for like a decade, but then all of a sudden he was starting to be like, something is up. there's something else is happening here. I am going to find out what it is.
Yeah.
So we see him just wandering around this weird compound that looks like the outside of like a factory or something.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of the desert somewhere, you know, way out. And he has just shown up unannounced. We find out that right away because, like, the staff members, like, are you authorized to be here? Mm-hmm. And then we see that Serac and his brother, and there's a bunch of other people there, too, and they're in these, like, glass rooms, you know, they're like little pods almost. And the way it looked, it reminded me a little bit of Delores just because of everybody being behind these glass rooms, and that's how the lab was set up. But it was where Delores, everything was like black. Here, everything is like white and clear, you know.
Right.
And this is when we find out a little bit more about the brother, but also what Serac thinks of these people in general. These people that keep ruining his plan.
Yeah.
And it is bleak.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is
I'm sorry.
Right? No, go ahead.
No, just the line he said when he's talking about his brother, he says, you know, he's a part of a group of outliers, and as long as they exist, there is no future for us. Like, Jesus Christ. And they don't go into detail, but he's running some type of experiment on them. Because Dempsey says you're trying to change them.
Yeah, because he says I figured out people could be edited.
Yeah. So, but we don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. You know.
And when he looks over, Dempsey sees him in there with his brother in such a way that I almost thought it was a host of his brother. Because of how... It's partially the way he's touching him. It's partially the way his brother is standing. But my initial reaction when he walks through here is thinking that these are all people. Then I went back to thinking, are they hosts? Is he making like copies? And then I started to wonder if like the brother that he has had working with him has been a copy because he killed the brother that was no good and made this copy that's got all of his best attributes without the mental instability. And that he was like
Ford did.
Basically, yeah, exactly. And so I sort of was like, is that what but then to find out, that's his actual brother. It's not a copy, which made it so much worse. Like, the way he's like manhandling him. I know that it's meant to be kind of like an affectionate thing in the first few scenes, but once we get here, it's so much more controlling and like territorial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just something icky about it.
It's like because the two of them, when at the beginning of the episode, Serac tells us that it was his older brother that like kept them alive and was, you know, the one that saved them, and also the one that was really the genius behind what they created. And now it's like the power differential has shifted.
Yeah.
You know? And some of the way he's manhandling him feels almost like the kind of when you love someone, but they have not lived up to your expectations of them, right? You know, like you imagine that he would have really almost idolized his brother, and then to see him, the disappointment to find out that his brother was one of the group of people that he is saying, you know, destroys the future. And there's just sort of a, when you talk about it being just kind of icky, it's like it feels like it's very layered. Like there's a deep love, but also like a frustration and a disappointment.
Yeah.
You know, some sort of negative feeling that's just under the surface of what is supposed to be affection.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's just under what's supposed to be affection. Because that's the thing that's like, it felt like genuine affection at first. So I feel like that seems on the surface like what's still happening. But then once you like find out what the fuck is going on here, and he sort of alludes to it before he outright says it later to Dempsey. He's like, I caught him using the system trying out different scenarios. And what we find out is he was going to kill Dempsey and was just trying to figure out what the most likely way to get away with it was and what the most likely way the company continues to survive is. And
isn't that funny? Remember in one of the first episodes, might have been the first episode, when we first meet Delores and Liam, and the girl who shows up in this episode in the next scene with Connells shows up to tell Liam that he needs to go take this meeting and he doesn't want to go. And she threatens him by saying, we don't want to have to kill you, but if we did, we could just use your machine to strategize ways that we could get away with it.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. It makes me think of, there's a Black Mirror episode in which they have a similar sort of like algorithm, but on a very small scale in terms of like predicting likely outcomes. And it seems like it is based on similar information input. They've got so much data on every person. And basically, the episode, you go through it thinking that what you are watching is this like, dystopian society and this couple who's being oppressed and decide to escape together. And they finally get outside of the boundary and get free. And then all of a sudden, as they are freed, everything turns black around them and the camera pulls way back. And you find out all of that was a simulation of what these two would most likely do in a scenario in which they were forced to not be together. And if they are both
it took me a minute to figure out which one and which episode you're talking about.
Yeah, and so like if they are both willing to fight to the point that they may die to be together, they will be matched on this software.
Right. That was a good episode.
It was one of the few with a fucking happy ending, even though like a bigger picture, it's horrifying.
That was the Panic at the Disco, I think, is that.
Was that it?
I think the only reason I remember it is because that's a Smith song. And that's why I watched the whole episode. I'm just like, play the song!
So anyway, it just reminded me of that. So this is the world is a wood chipper to spit them out, dead or useless, isn't helping them better than killing them off, which are, I guess, are two choices.
Yeah.
We can change fundamentally who they are as people, or we can kill them. Either way, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And Dempsey is more disturbed by this than I would have expected.
Yeah, he's mortified. And I think the song is Hang the DJ. Sorry. The episode of Black Mirror.
I was going to say, because you said it was a Smith song, and I was like, isn't that just a band name? But then I was like, maybe the band named themselves after a Smith song. I don't know.
Well, no, I think there is a Smith song called Panic at the Disco, and I think that's where that band got the name from.
Okay,
but I
see?
think the Black Mirror episode is called Hang the DJ. But I'm now talking in circles, and people are yelling, so sorry. Fuzzy memory. So Dempsey seems like this is just, too far. Mm-hmm. We could manipulate the market and make me filthy rich. That's one thing.
Again, with the hands-off shit. This is still happening, my dude. This is a much more direct method of determining people's lives, but you're still doing that already.
And exactly, all that market manipulation, you don't think that people suffer because of that. Mm-hmm. But this is beyond the pale.
Yep.
And again, now we know where Liam gets it from, because this man is in the middle of nowhere at some facility that doesn't seem like anybody knows exists. And he thinks he's in a position of power.
Yeah.
Like, he starts telling Spark, I'm going to tell everybody. This is, can't allow this.
You walked up in this bitch with no security, my dude.
Right?
What are you even fucking doing here?
Like, you should have nodded politely and thanked him for the tour and said that you were going to go home now, and then fucking did something once you got home.
Pretend that you completely agree and want to help. Like, then you get the fuck out and you have this place raided. Although he is such a greedy bastard, this place gets raided and the stock market for him is going to tank. Who knows what happened to him?
Yeah.
So I could see just not like needing to cover his own ass.
He just has the same thing we were talking about earlier in the episode about Liam. He has this air of feeling like he is untouchable because that's what great wealth and power make you feel like. I mean, Sirach has it as well too, and he gets a little lesson in that later in this episode. But just this feeling of being like, I can just always do whatever I want. And Dempsey clearly still is viewing Sirach as almost an employee.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the boss of you. But you haven't been the boss since they got this thing up and running.
Sirach is Connell's.
Yeah.
He's like, you work for me. No, not really.
Oh, yeah. So they go out, and it's his fucking plane.
Yeah.
It's
blown to smithereens.
And Sirach says, you didn't make it.
I fucking loved it. It was so, he smashes his face. Ooh.
See, now this was surprising to me, right? Because for the Sirach in real time, like in our time, is so hands off, He's to see him engaged in the kind of violence it took to smash Dempsey's head in, right? Where I think this is the first act of violence we've seen him participate in, right? Everything else has been, handled by subordinates. He's going to meetings as a hologram most of the fucking time. Even when he meets the president at the beginning of this episode, there's no violence. There's just a very, strong display of power, but he doesn't have to, do anything.
Right.
But we see here that this is a man that is 100% capable of killing somebody with his bare hands.
Yep. And, I think it's potentially possible. It was just this one guy that he fantasized about killing for such a very long time that he was like, I wouldn't ordinarily do this, but for you, it's going to be a very special day.
And it's also like, Sirach makes it seem like his brother wanting to kill Dempsey was what was like the last straw. But you just killed him yourself. So, how are you so different? Like, are you really that different from your brother? Maybe you're as much of an outlier as he is.
Yeah, because he's trying to be like, well, my brother just wanted to kill you because he was unstable and didn't understand. But I want to kill you for very specific reasons. And so it's fine.
Right. All my reasons make sense.
Yep. Oh, honey. Meanwhile, back at the building before Connells blows himself up, guess who shows back up? My buddy Stubbs!
Does he fucking say, did you forget about me?
I think he says that exact. Here we go. They're walking. Everything is normal. We're the only family you have left. Literally, as he says that, the elevator opens. I think you forgot about me. And then throat punch, face punch, throat punch again. Oh no, he's got you. He's got you up against the wall. Gun to the back of your neck. Oh, but Bernard's there. You forgot about Bernard. Ha! We got the gun away from you. Oh, we have you teetering over the edge of a... Oh, here comes some people. All right, we're going to be cool right now.
Everybody just calm down. Everybody chill out. Everybody just play it real cool real quick. And Bernard gets this little clicky device out of Connell's pocket. And that's that.
Yep. And Connell's isn't even like he fights like initially, but it really does
Yeah.
feel kind of like a reaction.
It does feel very like just reflex, like, oh, somebody just punched me in the throat. I better punch them back.
Yeah.
But he, like we were, he has already done what he's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he ends up basically warning them, Sirach's team is here.
And I have
You
some
have to
shit
go.
to finish up here, but after that I'll be out.
Right.
So
And Bernard's like, you should come with us. Mm-hmm. And Connell says no. So Bernard.
he's hope.
He's something. Like, he is still... I would have thought that once he saw what Delores had planned for Insight anyway, and when he realizes that she's like what he calls letting them off their loop, mm-hmm. I was like, well, why are you still so angry about what you mean? Like, why are you still so distrustful about what Delores is doing? This seems like something you would be on board with.
Right.
But I guess because he still doesn't know he doesn't know what her ultimate plan is, or if this is just her plan. Because one of the things they try to get Connells to say when they have the gun on him is like, what is she really doing? What is her real, what is she planning?
Yeah.
And then the people show up and they have to stop. But I would think Bernard would be 100% team, let everybody know so they can make their own choices and have agency and decide what their lives are going to be.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about the end goal is really what's kind of hanging him up, because this can't be the end goal. Just opening everything up so people know. Obviously, she doesn't suddenly turn herself in or shoot herself or something after accomplishing this. So I feel like he feels, okay, she's wreaking havoc. Maybe this will be good, this will be good in the short term. Who knows what she knows beyond this.
Right. I guess she could just be an instrument of chaos.
Oh, and I forgot about how Sirach is like, oh, hey, Connells, I always thought that you were one of our most loyal supporters. And I was like, what? Connells. He was like, he's being treated like, I mean, I know that you were technically working for the guy who stole our idea, but you love us, right? So he was one of the moles, maybe. Yes?
He has been working for Sirach this whole time.
Right, okay.
Right. And which is why, he would have to check Liam every once in a while and remind him that I don't work for you.
Right.
When there's a scene earlier in the episode when I guess when Sirach is leaving the president, and he gets briefed that there was what does he call it? Was it data that went out or an encryption key that went out or something, but it happened in L.A.?
I do not remember.
That's what makes him go and confront Connells in this, talking about, I was so surprised that the leak or whatever it was happened under your watch.
Right. I forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's when Connells was like, yeah, I know exactly who it was. It was me.
Mm-hmm. And he blows the place up, taking with it a really amazing pair of heels.
Good God, those shoes were fire.
Amazing. I could walk maybe half as far as she does in this one scene all day and then have to take them off.
Yeah.
But nevertheless.
Same. They were really nice, though. So, the other, I guess, good thing is that with Connells being destroyed, Sirach has no idea that he was ever compromised.
Yeah, that's the main, he said, because I thought Connells was here, or Sirach was calling this meeting because he had figured it out. But then he starts talking about, oh, there was a leak from you. And I was like, oh shit, you don't even know what's going on yet. Fuck, that's embarrassing. And then, yeah, he blows the place up right in front of him. And I love the way that the, like, projection that he's looking at explodes also. It's really cool looking.
Yeah, that was dope.
And we go outside, and Bernard and Stubbs have seen the explosion. There's a girl behind them with a mask on, and I was like, that's timely. Did you see her on the, like, escalator?
I didn't know.
But yeah, she's the only one, so it's pretty much like Texas. So we go back to Caleb and Delores, Ash and Giggles and Eli, Alan, Abel, Liam, thank you.
Abel.
I don't know. And
before we go to the other scene, I just want to say real quick, when Stubbs and Bernard leave the building before the explosion, and I think Bernard asked Stubbs what happened in there. Mm-hmm. And then Stubbs was like, what the fuck happened out here? Because, like, there's just shit on fire and people were just running down the street.
I love how often Stubbs is put in the position of just being like, oh, God damn it, what happened now? That just keeps on going on.
All right, so then we go back to everybody on the beach, and what does Connells tell Bernard right before Stubbs shows up? When he's talking about we're the only family we have left, and he gives him a tablet with some information on it.
Oh, I forgot about this. Hold on, let me go back.
I'm trying to go back to. It's kind of further back.
Sirach speaking French. Thank you, subtitles. It's not exactly. I'm trying to move this around, but it has started to sort of freeze up on me.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Here we go. Okay, I got it. I love seeing Sirach's team show up, too. It's like the fucking Matrix. They look like hosts. But there's like the 6 of them, you know, just like all swooping in at the exact same time and with the same exact pace. Everything about them feels like robotic in its weird way. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, he's telling him about where the outliers are.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. It's begun. Sirach will send someone for us soon, but there's something you have to see first. And he hands him the map thing. And Bernard says, what is this, some type of facility? And he says, that's where he puts them, the ones that don't belong. You thought we were the enemy. We're the only family you have left.
Right, okay, all right. So see, now that's 2 bits of information that Bernard has gotten.
Yeah.
About the loops and about what Sirach's doing. And he's still, you know... Mm-hmm. Well, we don't, you know, my assumption is that he hasn't chosen a side yet because of the way he's talking to Stubbs. It feels like he is not ready to be on Team Delores.
No, definitely not.
And I don't know what the hold up is.
Honestly, Delores, it feels like for some reason she wants Bernard to be able to make this choice without all the information.
Yeah.
It feels like she set him up to need to, like, take a leap of faith himself. And I don't really get why. Like, just tell him what you're trying to do and let him decide if he wants to help you. I don't know what it's supposed... Is he supposed to be bridging the gap between...
Maybe.
You know?
I know that, like, when he's with Connells, Delores says one of his main priorities is to protect our friend. Right? Mm-hmm. To protect Bernard. Even though he is there to thwart her plan.
Right. Well. All right, back to the beach scene. Delores tells... Oh my god, this guy with the beard in the suit, is he the one that's just standing in the water on the beach? Is that the same dude? Somebody in a full suit is going down to the water on the beach and standing there and letting the water just wash over his shoes. And this looks like a man who has decided to just, like, completely go left on the course his life is about to take.
Oh, I didn't even notice him. Oh, my God, you're right.
Is it this beard guy?
His little briefcase is just sitting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the guy from the train or not. But, yeah, he does like a man that's considering some things, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just looks like either he's just going to kill himself, either that, or he's going to, like, sell everything and move to Bali. And he's remembering how much I used to love the ocean as a boy. You know, it's like that moment for him. So we have the fucking, what do you want to do with him? We don't need him anymore about Liam scene. And he's like, yeah, you take everything until I have nothing left is how this goes. And I really love when he says, just let me go. And Ash says, you've got the specs. Is that how it plays out?
Yeah.
And then says, you'll take everything like the petty criminals you are, that you'll always be.
We can't fix you. We can't get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The system isn't the prison you are to all of us.
Mm-hmm. That's what they think.
Yep.
He tells Caleb, you don't even know who you are. You're the worst of them.
Yeah. And when he says that, we see Caleb leading some dude with a bag over his head again.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes in a little bit deeper this time. They're leading somebody into what looks like an abandoned factory. The person is in a pretty big overcoat, and so it's difficult to see anything about, like, their body type or anything.
Right.
It's like they've got clothes, like full clothing on, and then somebody just threw an overcoat over the clothing. Or, I don't know. It's like, it's misshapen. He looks misshapen.
Mm-hmm.
And they pull the bag off of his head. And I gotta tell you, I might be way off here. But the dude's head looks like the dad from Veronica Mars. And I don't know if it's the same actor or not.
Oh, I remember that guy.
But if it is, I love that guy. And I'm very interested to find out what this is.
They do a close-up of the guy with standing with no bag on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it?
Mm-mm.
So when...
It's in that same series of flashbacks?
It's after Liam gets shot.
Oh, okay. So give me a second and I'll get there. Oh, that's right. Because he's in the middle of having this flashback. And there's a shot, and there's a vibe to the shot happening that it could have been a memory also. You know? Like,
right.
There's...
Because you don't know... Yeah.
Yeah. And just a drag on the system, you know how much more progress we could have made if none of you had ever been... And then there's the gunshot. And what kills me so much... is this, like, we can't fix you. You literally can. You could give us money and health care and basic housing. You can. You just don't want to do that part. So it's a fucking character flaw for us. It's our problem as people who aren't just mysteriously can't seem to make it work. Right. Oh, what a fucking mystery it is. Jesus. Anyway, okay. So we look down. He's been shot right underneath the text that says basic, which is excellent. And Ash says, guess I do have a choice. And they have taken his fancy glasses, BT dubs. And then they just walk away. I like Giggles. It's just like, shit. He's got his hand on his gun like he didn't know what was going to happen. But he's like, all right, we just better go then.
They just leave, like, you know, this is what you do when you shoot somebody. You don't stand around and talk about it. You leave immediately.
So...
And Caleb starts freaking out.
He's looking over at the waves. We're getting nighttime waves. We're having him sitting on the railing looking like, you know, a man who is about to maybe murder. And then he's looking down at his friend. Oh, it is Veronica Mars' dad. I'm delighted. In a very nice camel coat. It looks much better in this scene than it does when he's being dragged into the building.
And the whole time, Caleb, because Liam is just reacting to him, and Caleb keeps saying, who do you think I am? Mm-hmm. And asks Delores, like, who does he think I am? Like, why is he, acting like this? And she tries to grab him and tell him that it's time to go, but he's not trying to hear any of that.
Mm-hmm. And Delores is looking at Caleb in a way that, in my opinion, reveals she knows precisely what the fuck Liam is talking about, and is very irritated at the fact that Liam has spilled these beans this quick, because she clearly was not planning on getting around to this anytime soon. Like, she does not appreciate this at all. She mad. He really got a last parting shot out, didn't he? Whatever this is that he's and we see him saying, you did it. And there's a moment, a flashback of flashback of Caleb wearing goggles, looking like he is strapped to a table and writhing in pain as a very dispassionate woman looks on.
Yep. Any thoughts about all that?
I have several thoughts. First of all, it could be that he killed his own friend. And then it was so traumatic that they decided to erase that memory from his brain because they thought they were helping him. Like, well, he winds up killing himself because of his guilt. So how about we erase the memory? He has nothing to feel guilty about, ergo we really helped. I don't know who the dude is in the coat and how that factors in at all. I mean, it could be that maybe he lost his mind and killed somebody because he had an episode, and they went in and changed his brain to fix whatever happened to cause him to kill somebody.
Right.
And if so, that scene with him pulling a person very methodically and purposefully into an abandoned building is only partially relevant, because the thing with his friend dying feels like a whole separate thing.
Right.
Maybe,
what's happening?
Why he would go after this guy the way he did, I don't know. All I can assume is, here's my guess. We're having an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind thing here, where he found out about a dude who can hook him up with getting his fucking memory taken out, but he can't afford it. So he holds the guy hostage in exchange for getting this treatment that's only for elite or something.
Right.
And getting that taken out. Or this dude was a broker for a firm that does this, and it went badly, and he decided to take it out on the guy. Or he found out that the guy had erased the memory of his mom. I feel like his mother's deal with her dementia has to do with this somehow.
Oh.
But I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe she's just...
Maybe it's not organic. Maybe she had something else done to her.
Either it was done to her, or because she has that in her history, that's a factor for him. And so that was what played into their decision of how to deal with him. Because that's just genetic. I am predisposed to Alzheimer's, by the way. Super fun fact. According to my...
it is not a super fun fact.
Yeah, my blood. What do they do? That saliva. 23andMe. I did that, and I have a lot of the markers for early onset Alzheimer's. So, good times. It's fine. I'm going to die fighting Nazis when I'm 70.
I still have my test that a good friend of ours was nice enough to send me, and I still haven't done mine because I'm paranoid of giving my DNA over to some weird company. They don't already
They
have
fucking
it from
have that
pennies.
shit. Mm-hmm.
They already got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, though, because these scenarios that I'm saying, while plausible, I'm not sure they entirely explain why the fuck Liam reacts to Caleb the way he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he looks straight up terrified.
Yeah, he backs away hurriedly, and they've already had guns on him and everything. Like, that shit's been done, and yet he has this renewed wave of terror that I'm just like, it must be real bad if that's still happening.
Right. And yeah, we don't know what Liam saw when he looked at Caleb with those glasses.
Yeah.
Unless we're supposed to think that the flashbacks that we're experiencing through Caleb are what Liam is seeing. Mm-hmm. But either way.
I don't know. Okay. Well, let me go to, I think, the final memory, which we've pretty much talked about already, which is the murder of Dempsey.
Right. The Sirach is talking about that every possibility that has been mapped out after the public finds out what they've been doing ends in human extinction. Mm-hmm. And that is the motivation for his brother wanting to kill Dempsey.
Yeah.
And I guess that is the reason that Sirach kills him now is because he is really, in their mind, a danger to the future of humanity. Mm-hmm. Based on what this, the system has determined. And he is really feeling himself because we did what we did to save the world. Sorry you don't get to be here anymore. Let me smash your head in 3 times.
Can we talk about the flicker of, derision when Dempsey's like, I looked too, and I know you let me walk out of here. The expression on his face is so, he really has a flicker of just, oh, honey. Real quick, and then back to, oh, we're going to engage in this topic in a highly intellectual manner, and I shall speak upon it. But for a second, it's just pure,
Yeah, it really is why would you think I would let you see anything other than what I want you to see?
Precisely. This is why you saw it, so that you would come with me. What the fuck else was... Oh, come on. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like I said, we know where Liam gets it.
That's true.
And then they do one of those cool things with the eyes that you were talking about earlier. The scene transitions from him in the desert to Delores through her eyes. And it is them finally speaking. Sirach and Delores are finally sort of face to face.
Yeah. In a way that's very unnerving to poor Caleb, who is very, very close by and cannot see Sirach standing there, by the way. So I don't know what he thinks is going on, but I'd be curious to hear his thoughts on the matter at this time.
He stays way over there, though.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't come rolling up trying to figure out what's happening. He stays right by that fucking door.
Mm-hmm. He reminds me of myself when I was a kid. I was just such an obedient kid because I really had confidence that adults wanted the best for me. And even if they were fucking up, they would be able to get it back. And all I needed to do was do my best to make it easier for them to accomplish whatever it was that they were trying to accomplish. Because I figured in the end it would be beneficial to me. So I basically just spent a lot of time trying to be as small and unobtrusive as possible to let them get on with it. And that's sort of what it feels like with him and Delores, is that he's I'm confident in whatever it is she's doing. I'll come when she calls me. When I'm not needed, I'll get the fuck out of the way. Because that is what she needs. And again, I can understand if you're why don't you ask more questions and be frustrated with that? But I just really get that sort of mindset. When you feel as totally out of your depth as a kid does to an adult, I feel like that's how Caleb is feeling R.E. Delores right now. He knows that he has no scope, clearly, for whatever it is that she's involved in. The information she has access to, and the equipment and everything.
Mm-hmm. The things he's seen her do.
Yeah, there's no explanation for that. So why argue? It's like an archangel came down.
Basically, and he's supposed to ask it a bunch of fucking questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I think that's a pretty fair read on him. And is a similar type of child. I get that, 100%. That's sort of my job is to be as unobtrusive and to stay out of the way, to let them be about the business of being grown-ups.
Right.
And if I give them the room that they need to take care of the things, then they'll take care of the things. Mm-hmm. Which turned out to not always be true.
Spoiler alert.
BT dubs.
Sometimes you need to obtruse. Is that a word?
It should be. Because sometimes they do not do all of the things.
They sure do not.
Oh, excuse me. So this Sirach hologram comes and he's just trying to be like, you don't know me. Yeah, you got a couple of my memories, but
Delores is like, I don't need to know you. I need to know how to beat you. I'll figure that shit out. He claims that she's forgetting she's not immortal, which I mean, I can understand that, like, because she tries to say I can be killed, but I'm like, can you? You've got copies of yourself out there running around. Like, I'm not even sure. He's acting like he really has her number here, and I'm like, you don't exactly know what the fuck she's on over here, though.
No, he really feels, this confidence he has that he's hip to whatever it is she's trying to do. And he's also doing this thing, like he says to her, I would do anything, I would sacrifice anything to protect my kind. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, we're flawed, but, and she's like, you're going to fix them like you tried to fix your brother? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's necessarily shook by her knowing that. Like, he can't be, because he knows she got access to his files. Of course she would know that.
Yeah.
But also, maybe just his hologram isn't able to look shook. Because when we get back to the real him on the plane, he looks upset.
He is angry, kids. That fucking white circle is going into a full-on eclipse, and he is ready to Hulk smash his way out of that plane in midair.
How crazy is that plane, too?
Oh, it looks so cool. It's awesome. I'm really mad about so much of this stuff not really existing. So we have Caleb, like, getting a delivery of some giant, like, long bag that looks like it's got rifles in it or something. Mm-hmm. And he's staring down at his hands that still have blood embedded in the creases. Yeah. And I'm like, is this, like, because it's super familiar to you, or are you feeling guilty, or what? It seems for a second like he's sort of, like, gonna think twice about this. And when he comes up on Delores, he admits that he's not entirely confident here. Yeah.
It's like, maybe he was right. Maybe people knowing is going to do more harm than good. Mm-hmm. And Delores does not seem to have any gray area. She is just like, no, they deserve to fucking know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting difference in perspectives, where one of them is morally, is this a bad call for the potential effects of it? And the other is morally, is keeping this information from the people it is about the right thing to do? Right. They're asking totally different questions, really.
Different questions, yeah. And, I mean, we joked about it earlier in this episode, but, like, there's a difference between giving people the information and insight into themselves that could empower them to make better choices, know what kind of things they need to worry about, prepare for things, and or having all that information and letting it determine what people are going to be capable of,
mm-hmm.
which is what was happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe in a perfect world, you get rid of the algorithm that's controlling everything without giving these people the information that was out there on them.
I don't trust that information is got rid of. There's just too much money to be made by knowing that shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, if you told me, no, we got rid of this, like, I mean, I don't...
Because she didn't destroy anything. She just let some data out.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, so, now that they know, does this just continue?
I wonder if the algorithm can't work as well if people are aware of it. I don't know.
I mean, the whole thing behind murdering Dempsey was, I can't allow you to tell people because once they know, that's it.
Yeah.
And now she has done they know that's it part. So.
Yeah, and that's it is like, that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know? Which, I mean, Sirach looks like the type of person that's prone to hyperbole, but I feel like he was being literal.
I do too, and like that's the thing is she giving everybody this information because they have the right to know, or is she doing it because she saw that is what ends humanity, and she's like, oh, perfect, shortcut, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that feels like a fucking she doesn't care about people, I think is the thing to keep in mind, right? She has contempt for practically every human being we see her come across.
Mm-hmm.
So her doing something for altruistic reasons isn't going to ring for me anyway. Because she doesn't care. People are the enemy from where she is coming from. I mean, she even says to Caleb about how, like, I thought your world would be so different. And it's not. Which, what that means then is I really was hoping, or maybe not even hoping, but expecting there'd be something like redeeming about y'all out here. But all I see is more of the shit I had to deal with. So I don't really feel too bad about this after all.
Like, y'all are just as bad out here as you were in the fucking park.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if because we have Sirach being centered so much in these last, especially this episode, and it becomes clear that he's got some sort of villainousness to him.
Indeed.
I don't think that's how you say that. Then in comparison, it makes Delores look like, oh, well, she must be the good guy then if he's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always cut that neatly.
Yeah. Because he keeps on putting this in terms of protecting my kind, saving my kind. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, when he says that, I don't automatically go, she's trying to kill your kind. Even though she's pretty much said that.
Right.
Like,
right.
She's not really making a huge secret about it, I don't even feel like. And I just still forget.
It's hard to take him seriously when he's talking about protecting his kind when we see what he's willing to do to people who he doesn't consider worthwhile.
Right.
Or, like, you know, or in his mind, I'm sure it's not even a matter of personally thinking these people are good or bad or worthwhile. They just don't, they are impediments.
Exactly.
You know?
He has an end game in mind, which is keeping people from going extinct. Mm-hmm. And so any sacrifice on the way to making sure the race continues, that's all he needs to focus on.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Which, I mean, that's like a very nice, simple objective. Not simple and easy, but it's a very black and white objective that I'm sure is comforting.
Right.
You know, in its way. But, you know, this, again, what is the point of continuing humankind if this kind of behavior is what we continue to be.
Right. Yeah.
Are we worth saving simply because you feel like it when you are like that?
Right. And his whole, motivation was that humans can't be trusted to their own devices, So it needs somebody, it needs an architect, which is, what Ford was doing in the park. And Serac is willing to sacrifice. When he says, I'm willing to sacrifice to protect my kind, like, he means that, but I don't know if he means himself. Like he's sacrificing all these other fucking people.
Yeah, when he says that, it's a real, like, I am willing to do what nobody else is willing to do, and so I must stay alive because I have that perspective that we need.
Right. I was willing to put my own brother, out to pasture for the bigger picture. So that makes me, somehow morally superior and proves that I am the right person to be making these decisions.
Yeah. It's really amazing how selfless he is.
Yeah, right? He's a real humanitarian.
Yep.
Shit, it is 20 minutes to midnight.
I know. So we got to wrap this up. So he says, Caleb says to her, I don't know if this was the right thing to do. She says, people have the right to know. You wanted to know. And he says, maybe I'm not like other people. And she looks at him and says, neither am I. And she
gives him quite the face.
Yeah. And when she leaves him standing there, it's a very, like, obvious moment where he could walk away from this and decide no. But I mean, how do you really walk away from it after what you just went through this like...
At this point, what are you walking back to?
Exactly. Everything is in complete chaos. Who knows what the fuck is going on? Like, yeah, forget it. So, that is the end of the episode. Dun, 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 dun. I can't believe there's only 3 left. Kids! I'm excited about it. I am very curious. I'm really surprised people haven't liked this more, and that I didn't hear about it more as it was airing. Because there was a period there where, like, I was really having trouble avoiding spoilers about this show,
Yeah, it was a little bit of, fanfare when it came back. And then, after about, like, this 3rd season, I think, I stopped seeing stuff in my feed about it, and... there are still people that watch, and people are still, like, podcasting and writing about it, but it just wasn't, like, nobody that I'm really, there was very few people that were, like, talking about it on my feed outside of any of the groups I'm in, it wasn't, it just wasn't making any noise, really. Yeah.
So... All right.
What can you do?
I hope that you guys are enjoying the coverage of this anyway, even though there's not that many of you, but I appreciate your loyalty and your follow through.
And we sure do apologize for last week.
It was 2 weeks ago by the time this one goes up, but yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was my bad, guys. Sorry about that. Just fucking first half of the episode gone.
Tee-hee. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for listening, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.